My phone buzzed at 2 a.m., jerking me awake from deep sleep. The caller ID showed the hospital's number, and my heart immediately started racing like a drum. Mom had been feeling sick for days, but she kept insisting it was just a cold that would pass. The nurse's voice was urgent and scared. "Miss Riley, your mother has been brought to the emergency room with a severe infection. You need to come immediately." I threw on the first clothes I could find and drove through completely empty streets, my hands shaking uncontrollably on the steering wheel. At the hospital, the doctor explained that Mom needed emergency surgery within hours. The infection had spread dangerously, and someone had to stay to make crucial medical decisions. I'd worked at Pinnacle Marketing for 3 long years without taking a single personal day. Derek, my boss, always bragged about our team's unwavering dedication. As I walked through the bright lobby to call Derek, I heard his familiar voice echoing off the walls. He was pacing near the vending machines, phone pressed to his ear, talking loudly about unreliable employees and convenient family excuses. My stomach dropped like a stone. Derek was here too, but unlike me, he seemed more angry than worried. I approached Derek hesitantly, feeling like I was walking toward a lion's den. He ended his call and looked genuinely surprised to see me standing there. "Riley? What are you doing here at this hour?" "My mom needs emergency surgery," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need to take a personal day tomorrow to stay with her during the procedure. The doctors say it's going to be a long operation." Derek's expression softened slightly, though his eyes still held that familiar calculating look. "Oh, actually, my dad just had a minor procedure earlier tonight. Nothing serious, thankfully." He paused, then sighed dramatically, like he was doing me a huge favor. "Fine, you can have the day off. But you know the Meridian presentation is coming up next week, right? The timing is pretty convenient, if you ask me." His words stung like a slap, but I desperately needed his approval. "Thank you, Derek. I'll make sure everything is covered before I leave." He pulled out his phone and typed quickly with his thumbs. "There." Sent the approval email. I glanced at his screen, 11:47 p.m. Then he looked up with that familiar smirk that always made me uncomfortable. "Just remember, Riley, dedication gets tested during crucial moments. Hope your mom pulls through okay." Mom's surgery lasted 8 grueling hours that felt like an eternity. I sat in the uncomfortable waiting room chairs, alternating between pacing the floors and staring blankly at my phone. Despite everything happening with Mom, work calls kept coming in constantly. Jenny from the design team needed the specific color codes for the Morrison campaign. Mike couldn't locate the budget spreadsheets for the Peterson account anywhere. Each time my phone rang, I walked to the hallway and helped them remotely, whispering so I wouldn't disturb other worried families. "The Morrison files are in the shared drive under active campaigns," I explained quietly into my phone. "Peterson's budget is in my desktop folder, clearly marked Q3 budgets." What bothered me most was that Derek never called once to check on Mom's condition or see how I was holding up. But every time I logged into my work email to help my colleagues find what they needed, I noticed something very strange. My login history showed 47 different access times throughout the entire day. Someone had been using my credentials constantly while I was dealing with Mom's emergency. When the surgeon finally came out at 6 p.m. to tell me Mom was stable, I felt completely exhausted but deeply grateful. As I gathered my things to head home, I realized Derek had been accessing my work files all day using my login information. The next morning, I stopped at the coffee shop and bought everyone's usual orders. Derek's black coffee with no sugar, Jenny's vanilla latte with extra foam, Mike's double cappuccino. I was ready to jump back into work with full energy and catch up on everything I'd missed during Mom's surgery. The Meridian presentation was only 5 days away, and I knew Derek would desperately need my help to pull it together. But instead of going straight to my desk like always, Derek intercepted me right at the elevator doors. His face was stern and cold. "Riley, conference room, right now." Inside sat Linda Walsh from HR, her laptop already open and papers spread across the polished table like evidence in a trial. My stomach dropped to the floor when I saw the setup. Derek closed the door firmly behind us and took his seat directly across from me, that same cruel smirk from the hospital crossing his face again. "Riley, We need to discuss your unauthorized absence yesterday, Derek began in an official tone. Unauthorized? But you approved it. You sent me the email at the hospital. I pulled out my phone frantically to show the timestamp I remembered seeing. Derek slid a printed email across the table toward me. It showed his approval message, but something was terribly wrong. The timestamp was completely missing, and the formatting looked different from what I clearly remembered seeing on his phone screen at the hospital. Linda looked visibly uncomfortable as she opened her laptop with shaking hands. Let me pull up the original email thread with the full headers, she said, typing quickly while avoiding Derek's glare. The screen showed everything in perfect detail. Timestamps, IP addresses, server information, the complete digital trail. Derek's approval was clearly sent at 11:47 p.m., exactly like I remembered seeing on his phone. The evidence was right there in black and white, impossible to deny. But Derek waved his hand dismissively like he was swatting away a fly. That's obviously a system glitch. The email I'm showing you is the real one, the accurate record. Riley, your termination is effective immediately. I stared at him in complete shock, feeling like the world was spinning. Derek, you know this isn't right. You were at the hospital with me. You saw my mother's situation with your own eyes. I never authorized anything, he said firmly, gathering his papers with finality. This meeting is over. Linda caught my eye and quietly slid her business card across the table. Written on the back in tiny careful letters was a note. Call me. Derek stood up abruptly, his decision apparently final and non-negotiable. Security will escort you out within the hour. Please gather your personal items only. I looked at Linda desperately, who gave me the slightest nod. Something wasn't right about this whole situation, but Derek seemed absolutely determined to see it through to the bitter end. At my desk, I slowly packed my personal photos and coffee mug, while Derek hovered nearby like a vulture. He kept glancing nervously at his computer screen, typing frantically for a few seconds, then stopping with visible frustration written all over his face. Riley, he said, trying to sound casual and friendly, for the sake of the team, could you write up some quick transition notes? Just the basic passwords and file locations so everyone can keep working smoothly? I looked at him carefully, sensing something desperate in his voice. Derek, IT would have deactivated my access already. I can't help with that anymore. His friendly mask slipped slightly, revealing the panic underneath. Come on, just the basics. Where did you keep the Morrison files? What about those budget templates you created? Everything should be properly documented in the project folders, I replied politely, continuing to pack my belongings. Derek grew visibly more agitated by the minute. I noticed him taking photos of documents on my desk with his phone, trying to be sneaky about it but failing miserably. When I closed a file folder, he actually reached over and reopened it, snapping another quick picture. Derek, those are confidential company documents. You really shouldn't be photographing them. He pulled his hand back quickly like he'd been caught stealing. Just trying to help the team transition smoothly without any disruptions. At home, my phone started ringing immediately and didn't stop. Derek called 7 times in just 2 hours, leaving increasingly desperate and frantic voicemails that grew more demanding each time. Riley, hey, it's Derek. Could you just quickly walk me through the Morrison campaign structure? Nothing complicated, just call me back. Riley, it's urgent now. I can't find the Meridian presentation files anywhere. Please call me back as soon as possible. This is ridiculous, Riley. You need to help the team succeed. Call me back immediately. My colleagues started texting constantly too. Jenny, where are the color palettes saved? Can't find them anywhere. Mike, can't locate Peterson budget files. Help? But then Sarah from accounting sent me a message that made my blood boil with anger. Sorry to hear you quit without notice because of family problems. Hope your mom recovers okay. Derek had told everyone I quit voluntarily. He was making me look completely unreliable and unprofessional to my own colleagues. I started taking screenshots of every single voicemail, every text message, every lie he was spreading throughout the office. If Derek wanted to play dirty games and destroy my reputation, I'd be fully prepared with evidence. The pattern was becoming clear. Derek was rewriting history to save himself, and I was his convenient scapegoat. 3 days later, Jenny called me, sounding completely stressed and overwhelmed. "Riley, I have to tell you what happened at the Meridian presentation. It was an absolute disaster from start to finish." My heart sank into my stomach. I'd worked on that presentation for weeks before Mom got sick, perfecting every detail. What went wrong exactly? Derek used last year's numbers by mistake. The graphics were completely outdated, and he couldn't answer any of their basic questions about the new strategy we developed. "But Riley..." Jenny paused dramatically. "Janet Wells, Meridian's CEO, kept asking specifically about you. She wanted to know why you weren't there presenting." "What did Derek tell her?" "He told them you had abandoned the project due to personal reliability issues and that you couldn't handle the pressure of balancing work and family problems. Riley, he threw you completely under the bus." I felt physically sick. Derek was destroying my reputation with our most important clients now. Janet Wells was one of the most respected CEOs in our entire industry. If she thought I was unreliable, word would spread like wildfire quickly. "Jenny, I need you to know the truth. Derek fired me the day after I took approved leave to care for my sick mother during emergency surgery." There was complete silence on the other end. Then Jenny whispered, "Oh my God, Riley, this is so much worse than any of us thought." The next morning, I discovered a LinkedIn message from Janet Wells herself. "Riley, is it true you're no longer with Pinnacle? We need to talk urgently." I stared at the message for 10 long minutes before responding, my heart pounding. Janet Wells wanting to talk to me directly? We scheduled a video call for that afternoon, and I spent hours preparing for what could be a career-defining conversation. When her face appeared on my screen, she smiled warmly like we were old friends. "Riley, I probably should have mentioned this much earlier, but we were roommates at State University 12 years ago. I was Janet Morrison back then." My jaw dropped open in complete shock. "Janet Morrison, oh my God, I didn't make the connection with your married name." "That's exactly why I've been specifically requesting you on all our projects for the past 2 years. I remember how incredibly dedicated and honest you were in college. When Derek said you'd abandoned the project due to reliability issues, I knew immediately something was very wrong." Janet's expression grew serious and concerned. "Riley, what really happened? I need to hear your side of the story." I told her everything: Mom's emergency surgery, Derek's approval at the hospital, the firing, his lies to clients and colleagues. Janet listened intently, taking careful notes and asking clarifying questions. "This explains so much about Derek's presentation. He clearly had no understanding of the strategy behind your work." Janet's next words hit me like a thunderbolt. "Riley, I'm terminating Meridian's contract with Pinnacle immediately. We can't work with a company that treats valuable employees this way." "Janet, that's a $2.3 million contract. You don't have to do something so drastic." "It's already decided, and there's more you should know." Janet leaned forward earnestly. 3 other major clients have called me asking specifically about your departure. Derek's botched presentation has become serious industry gossip, and your name keeps coming up as the real talent behind Pinnacle's success." I felt dizzy from the shock. Derek's decision to fire me was causing a massive ripple effect throughout our industry. Harrison Industries, Blackstone Group, and Premier Solutions have all asked me directly about you, Janet continued. "They're questioning whether to continue with Pinnacle if you're not there anymore. Some are already looking for alternatives." I had no idea that clients even knew my name personally. "Riley, you've been the face of quality work at that agency for years. Clients always notice good work, and they definitely notice when it suddenly disappears." Janet smiled knowingly. Derek just made the biggest mistake of his entire career. I sat back in my chair, overwhelmed by the realization that my work had made a bigger impact than I ever imagined. Derek thought he was getting rid of a problem, but he was actually destroying his company's foundation. The next day, Janet posted a LinkedIn recommendation that made my phone explode with notifications. "I've had the privilege of working with Riley Thompson on multiple campaigns over the past 2 years. Her professionalism, creativity, and work ethic are absolutely unmatched in this industry. Family emergencies test true character, and the best companies support employees during health crises. Any organization would be fortunate to have someone of Riley's exceptional caliber. Within hours, the post had dozens of comments and hundreds of likes. Former clients I'd worked with were sharing their own stories and experiences. Riley saved our Q3 campaign when everything went wrong at the last minute. Always professional, always delivered beyond expectations. The best project manager we've ever worked with in 15 years. Companies that don't value employees like Riley deserve to lose them. The contrast was absolutely stark and telling. Here were clients and colleagues publicly praising my work and character, while Derek had been telling everyone I was unreliable and unprofessional. His carefully constructed narrative was falling apart in real time, visible to our entire industry. Linda Walsh from HR even liked the post, which sent its own powerful message to everyone watching. The truth was finally coming out, and it was spreading faster than Derek's lies ever could. Panicking about the lost contracts and mounting client concerns, Derek started calling remaining clients directly to do damage control. But Tom Harrison from Harrison Industries was suspicious of Derek's increasingly desperate story and decided to record their entire conversation. Tom sent me the audio file with a message. Thought you should hear exactly what your former boss is saying about you behind your back. Derek's voice was crystal clear. Riley sabotaged our company systems before she left. Honestly, Tom, she was mentally unstable due to family stress. We're much better off without that kind of negativity affecting our work and team morale. I listened in complete shock and horror. Derek was completely fabricating stories about me, potentially destroying my career and mental health reputation throughout the industry. Tom had added a note. Derek's story doesn't match what we've heard from other sources at all. We're terminating our contract with Pinnacle effective immediately. This kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. I immediately forwarded the recording to my phone and saved multiple copies in different locations. Derek had just handed me solid, undeniable evidence of defamation. His desperate attempts to explain away the client losses were making everything infinitely worse for him. The recording was a gift. Derek's own words would condemn him more than anything I could ever say. Linda Walsh called me privately the next evening, her voice quiet but determined. Riley, I need to tell you something important. I've been documenting Derek's behavior for months. What do you mean exactly? 3 other employees have filed formal complaints about Derek taking credit for their work over the past year. There's a clear pattern here. Linda's voice was steady but angry. I recommended against your termination, but Derek overruled me completely. He told Mr. Kim that you were a security risk and that firing you was his executive decision. My hands were shaking as I processed this information. Linda, are you willing to go on record about this? I'm planning to quit next week. Derek's toxicity is destroying this company from the inside out, and I can't be part of it anymore. But yes, I'll testify about your wrongful termination if needed. Linda sent me copies of the discrimination complaints and internal emails showing Derek's pattern of stealing credit from employees. The evidence was overwhelming and painted a clear picture. Riley, there's something else you need to know. Derek has been accessing files he shouldn't have access to. I think he's up to something much bigger than just covering up your firing. My heart started racing. What kind of files? Confidential client information, competitor analysis, things way beyond his clearance level. I've been tracking his digital footprint. Quit next week. Derek's toxicity is destroying this company, and I can't be part of it anymore. But yes, I'll testify about your wrongful termination if needed. Linda sent me copies of the discrimination complaints and emails showing Derek's pattern of stealing credit. The evidence was overwhelming. Riley, there's something else. Derek has been accessing files he shouldn't have access to. I think he's up to something bigger than just covering up your firing. My lawyer sent a cease and desist letter to Pinnacle for defamation, but while organizing my evidence, I discovered something alarming. My work login records showed Derek had accessed confidential competitor analysis files the day after I was fired. Those files contained sensitive information about our competitors' strategies, pricing, and client lists. Derek had no legitimate reason to access them, but then I saw something that made my blood run cold. The same strategies from those confidential files had appeared in a rival agency's presentation to Morrison Industries just 3 days later. The presentation was almost identical to our internal analysis. Derek wasn't just destroying my reputation, he was selling company secrets. I called my lawyer immediately. We need to expand this case. Derek may have committed corporate espionage. Riley, this changes everything. We're not just talking about wrongful termination anymore. This could be criminal. I spent the night documenting every access Derek had made to sensitive files, cross-referencing them with public presentations from competing agencies. The pattern was clear and damning. Robert Kim, Pinnacle's owner, called me directly after receiving my lawyer's expanded letter. Riley, these are serious accusations. I need to understand what happened. I professionally outlined Derek's policy violations, using my credentials without permission, sharing login information, accessing files beyond his clearance level, and the timing of competitor presentations matching our confidential analysis. Robert was quiet for a long moment. Riley, Derek recently came to me claiming you had been the source of our recent security issues. He recommended implementing stricter protocols and said you were the reason we needed them. My heart raced. Mr. Kim, I was fired before any of these security breaches occurred. The digital logs will prove that. I'm ordering a full investigation immediately. Derek specifically warned me about you. But if what you're saying is true... Robert's voice trailed off. Sir, I have documented evidence of every claim I've made. I never wanted this to escalate, but Derek's actions have gone far beyond wrongful termination. Riley, I owe you an apology, and possibly much more than that. 3 of my former colleagues reached out confidentially. Sarah, Mike, and Jenny met me at a coffee shop downtown, looking nervous but determined. Riley, we need to tell you what's been happening since you left, Sarah began. Derek has been claiming credit for innovations you developed over a year ago. He presented your customer retention strategy as his own idea to Mr. Kim last week. Mike nodded. The workplace has become toxic. Derek blames every problem on your sabotage before you left. People are afraid to speak up. We're all planning to quit, Jenny added quietly. But we wanted to know, if you land somewhere new, would there be opportunities for us? We can't work under Derek anymore. I felt terrible that my situation had created problems for my friends, but also touched by their loyalty. I don't have anything concrete yet, but I'll definitely keep you in mind. Riley, Sarah leaned forward. Derek's destroying the company. Mr. Kim doesn't see it yet, but clients are fleeing, and the best employees are planning to leave. Derek's toxicity is like poison spreading through everything. Janet called with news that changed everything. Riley, I'd like to offer you a position at Meridian. Director of Client Strategy, 40% salary increase plus a signing bonus. I nearly dropped the phone. Janet, that's incredibly generous, but there's more. I'm launching a new division focused on ethical marketing practices and family-friendly workplace culture. I want you to head it up. The irony was perfect. Derek's unethical firing had created an opportunity for me to build something meaningful around preventing exactly what happened to me. I've been planning this for weeks, Riley. Your situation with Derek was the final catalyst I needed to move forward with this division. His terrible decision became your career breakthrough. Janet explained that the new role would involve consulting with companies on employee retention, ethical leadership, and work-life balance policies. You'd be helping other companies avoid the mistakes Pinnacle made. Your experience, unfortunate as it was, gives you unique credibility in this field. I accepted immediately. Derek's worst decision had become the best thing that ever happened to my career. The next week, I received an unexpected call from Marcus Chen at Apex Marketing, the rival agency that had received Pinnacle's confidential information. Riley, we need to speak confidentially. We received anonymous information about competitors that we now suspect came from Derek Morrison at Pinnacle. My heart raced. What kind of information? Detailed competitor analysis, pricing strategies, client contact lists. The timing matches exactly with when you were terminated. We used some of the information, but we're now facing legal action from another client who discovered the breach. Marcus continued, we're willing to testify about receiving the leaked information. We have emails with timestamps that prove Derek sent this information after your termination date. "Marcus, why are you coming forward?" "Because we're realizing we were part of something unethical." Derek contacted us directly, claiming he had insider information that could help us win clients. We should have questioned it more. This was the final piece of evidence I needed. Derek hadn't just fired me wrongfully, he'd committed corporate espionage and implicated other companies in his crimes. Jenny called with updates from inside Pinnacle. "Riley, it's complete chaos here. We've lost 60% of our major clients since you left. Derek's panicking and making terrible decisions." "What kind of decisions?" "He hired 3 new people at premium salaries to replace everyone who quit, but they have no experience with our clients or systems. The Peterson campaign was a disaster because the new team didn't understand your framework." Mike texted separately. "Mr. Kim is being pressured by investors to sell the company or face bankruptcy. Derek's actions have made us financially unstable." I felt a mix of sadness and vindication. I'd never wanted Pinnacle to fail. I genuinely loved working there before Derek's toxicity took over. Sarah sent me photos from the office. Empty desks, stressed faces, Derek in constant meetings with lawyers and accountants. "The company culture you helped build is completely gone," Sarah wrote. "Derek has turned it into a place of fear and blame. Everyone knows this started when he fired you, but no one dares say it out loud." While organizing my portfolio for my new job at Meridian, I discovered something infuriating. Derek had been presenting my strategic framework for campaign development as his own creation in industry publications and conferences. I found 3 articles he'd published in the past 6 months, all featuring my customer journey mapping technique as Morrison's method. He'd even given a keynote speech about revolutionary retention strategies that were entirely based on my work. I had time-stamped emails and documents proving I'd developed the strategy 18 months ago. Derek had been building his professional reputation on my stolen work while simultaneously destroying my career. My lawyer was thrilled with this discovery. "Riley, this is intellectual property theft, on top of everything else. Derek has been profiting from your work while defaming you." I felt violated. Not only had Derek fired me unfairly, he'd stolen credit for my innovations and used them to advance his own career. "We're adding intellectual property theft to the lawsuit. Derek has been systematically stealing from you for over a year." My first campaign at Meridian, using my proven strategic framework, won 3 major industry awards. At the award ceremony, I gave a speech about collaborative environments allowing innovation to flourish. "Success comes from companies that value their employees and support them through challenges," I said, looking directly at Derek, who sat in the audience with a stunned expression. The irony was beautiful. Everyone in the industry now knew that the award-winning strategy was developed by the employee Derek had fired for being unreliable. After the ceremony, colleagues from other agencies approached me. "We heard about what happened at Pinnacle. Derek's reputation is completely destroyed." Janet beamed with pride. "Riley, you've proven that talent rises above toxic leadership." Derek left the ceremony early, but not before I saw him frantically texting on his phone. His world was collapsing around him, and everyone in our industry was watching it happen. The awards were validation, but the real victory was knowing I'd succeeded despite Derek's attempts to destroy me. Multiple lawsuits hit Pinnacle simultaneously. My wrongful termination and defamation case, corporate espionage claims from the leaked information incident, and breach of contract suits from former clients who'd discovered Derek's lies. The digital forensics report was devastating for Derek. Every security breach traced back to his computer, all occurring after my termination. His attempts to frame me had completely backfired. "Mr. Kim, the evidence shows that Derek Morrison accessed unauthorized files 47 times in the week following Miss Thompson's termination," the investigator reported. Derek's lawyer tried to argue that I had somehow given him my passwords, but the timestamps proved I was at the hospital during most of the unauthorized access. Robert Kim looked devastated as he reviewed the evidence. "Derek has destroyed this company's reputation and put us in legal jeopardy." The final blow came when Marcus Chen from Apex Marketing testified about Derek's attempts to sell confidential information. Derek sat in stunned silence as his career collapsed around him. Robert Kim made a public statement firing Derek and implementing new ethical leadership policies. Pinnacle Marketing is committed to rebuilding trust through ethical business practices and respect for all employees. But then came an unexpected twist. Robert called me privately. "Riley, I need your help. Would you consider a consulting contract to help rebuild Pinnacle's reputation and processes?" I was stunned. The company that had wrongfully terminated me was now asking me to save them. "Mr. Kim, I appreciate the offer, but I'm very happy at Meridian. I understand, but we need someone with your integrity and experience to guide our recovery. The clients trust you, and you understand what went wrong." It was tempting to have that level of vindication, but I realized I didn't need it. I'd already won by building something better. "I'll recommend some excellent consultants who can help you," I offered diplomatically. Robert seemed disappointed but grateful. "Riley, I'm truly sorry for what Derek put you through. You deserved so much better." Instead of consulting for Pinnacle, I announced the launch of my own consultancy, Ethical Marketing and Family-Friendly Workplace Culture. My first 3 clients were companies that had left Pinnacle after my firing. Janet supported my venture by giving me office space at Meridian and helping spread the word about my services. The irony was perfect. Derek's unethical behavior had created a market demand for exactly the kind of consulting I was now offering. But then something happened that shocked me. Derek applied for a job at Harrison Industries, one of my new clients, not knowing about my connection to them. Tom Harrison called me. "Riley, your former boss just applied for a senior position here. Given our relationship, I wanted to ask your professional opinion." I took a deep breath. "Tom, I'll send you the documented facts about Derek's behavior, and you can make your own decision. I won't make personal recommendations, but I'll provide professional references." It felt good to handle it ethically, even though Derek hadn't shown me the same courtesy. 6 months later, my consultancy was thriving with 12 corporate clients. Pinnacle had declared bankruptcy, despite Robert's efforts to save it. Derek had moved to another state for a lower-level position after being unable to find work in our industry. Then something unexpected arrived in my mailbox. A handwritten letter from Derek. "Riley, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I need to acknowledge what I did was wrong. I was scared of losing my job and made terrible decisions that hurt you and destroyed the company. I'm seeing a therapist and working on understanding why I acted so unethically. I don't expect a response, but I wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry." I read the letter twice, feeling a mixture of surprise and closure. I wrote back, "Derek, I appreciate your apology, and I'm glad you're getting help. I wish you well in your new career, and hope you've learned from this experience. We all make mistakes. What matters is how we grow from them." My ultimate revenge wasn't destroying Derek. It was not needing revenge at all. I'd built something better from the ashes of his poor decisions, and that was victory enough.